wondering if you had that whole rag closet that you could get out of that room. We better start shopping you more often.
Did I drop some buckets off or not? Did I drop some buckets off? Did you look leaking?
Oh, no. It was. Did you hear the noise? When they were working on it?
Oh, this morning we heard.
Yeah.
We woke up to the sound of hammers.
They're done.
Are they done with the whole work? The whole thing?
Yesterday afternoon,
Yeah.
and then this morning.
Oh, I thought they just started.
They had most of it done in a 8 hours. Yeah, they're taking it off. Unbelievable.
12 guys.
Yeah.
They just worked like a machine.
They came from Long Island, right?
So you happy with it? Oh, yeah.
At least today's a test.
Today is certainly a test.
Yeah.
give me applause. I think it's just you're ready for the show. I'm not taking it like you're clapping for me personally. So, just in case. I've been wanting to do a show like this, or have a program like this for a long time, but it just took time to put the pieces together and reach out to the right people. And one of those people has been Colleen, who you'll meet in a short time. She owns, when you come out of Egg Harbor, there's Chief Oshkosh on the right, if you've seen the TV, etc. She owns that, and she put me in touch with the other gentleman here, so I'm really excited about the evening. And so the evening is going to proceed sort of as follows. I'm going to get off the stage in a moment. Then Stevie Rice, the head archivist for the archives here on the island, is going to talk just a little bit, perhaps 10 minutes, about what is in the archives and a little information. Plus he has a few pictures. And then Colleen will come out and introduce the one friend, and then she'll come out. I'm cut out of the loop here tonight. And then she's going to introduce the other friend. So I'm just going to say I'm glad you came out tonight. The weather is not making anything easier, of course, but if there is a tornado, this isn't a bad place to be because it's all stone. And we're just going to have fun, so whatever happens. Don't forget about, actually, Sam has some things for sale, some merchandise. And when you leave, Laughing Fox has some other things for sale out there. He just won an Native American Music Award, so he has some CDs and some other things there. So I hope you'll support them in that way also. And then don't forget about tomorrow morning, we still talk about it, at 9 o'clock. Will be a little time here, 9 to maybe 10:30 or 11, all ages. And they're going to talk about mask making and flute making and dream catching and all those fun things. Things that I'm not sure what else they'll talk about, but it's going to be great for all ages, so we hope you'll come back then. Don't forget Friday night, our show is Friday instead of Saturday this weekend because of whatever it's called, the triathlon, etc. that goes on at the Red Barn. They take over out there, so Dan always asks us, who Dan runs the Red Barn, to trade. So we have Friday and he takes Saturday this week. And this Friday is going to be Tom Beckman, Lynn Goodmanson, the fiddle player, and it'll be five things that's going to play old rock and roll. We played last year at some point too. A lot of Mellencamp and Jackson Browne and some other older tunes that I think hopefully you'll enjoy. And it'll be probably versions that you'll never hear again, and it'll be great fun though. And we hope that you'll keep checking on the schedule, both online or in the booklet. There's a lot of great things coming up, and we hope that you'll support the theater here because we are always trying to bring quality programming in. It's certainly expensive, so we hope you'll consider sponsoring something next year, but also just if you have an idea, please bring something to us because we always want to try something. Like we had dance this year and ventriloquist, and we're kind of trying to just bring a great flavor to the community. Also, we hope you'll keep supporting the Island radio station, WISL 98.7 on your dial here, or stream it from home at WashingtonIslandRadio.com. And we are recording and streaming this show tonight, so you can find this at the True Blood Performing Arts Center YouTube channel. So if you want to hear yourself clapping very loudly, we hope you'll go there. So anyway, I'm going to pass this on to my cousin Steve, who's the head archivist, and he's going to do a little talk, and then we'll get the ball rolling. Thanks so much.
Good evening, thank you. I'm honored to be asked to be part of this program. So I have a photograph up here. And this probably depicts some Great Lakes area and some fishermen from that time. And then you have a sturgeon right there that they caught. And sturgeon were prolific around this area at the time. And another photo here of, oops, gotta get all the way over here to the other direction. Oh, Bennett's gone. That's okay. This is the one I really wanted to get to. So, early island Indian settlements were mostly composed of people gathered from various nations, such as the Potawatomis or the Menominee Indians. There was some Huron here, they think, and then Chippewas. But archaeologists claim that there's no track of equal area in Wisconsin which exhibits so many evidence of Indian occupation, such as Washington Island does. As you can see, there's quite a lot of, all these numbers are areas where there's evidence of Indian, either villages, which are the little dots, or cornfields, which are the hash marks. And in all these areas, pottery shards were found, and just other evidence, bones and that sort of thing. And let's see, we'll go, in number one up here, which is by Schoolhouse Beach and above there, there was many camping sites noted there. Arrows were found, and many arrowheads and stone implements were found over there. Pottery shards, like I said, bones, and even some hearthstones were found over there. Over in Jackson Harbor area there, probably about where the ridges are located, it seems to be one of the larger sites on the island. Small fragments of pottery, and much that were very weathered, of course, but come up through the surface, and small fragments of shards, pottery shards. And then over on Rock Island, quite a bit over there too. Mostly just across the channel here on the southern end, mostly where the campground is currently. And then down along in here, they call it Castle Point. That's where the Icelandic castle was at one time. But all along this area here was quite a few campsites. Over on Detroit Island too. And these are considered to be burial mounds here, the little tiny round circles. But most of the activity seems to be up here around Little Lake. Several village sites and cornfields. Not much evidence of regular gardens, but I'm sure they were growing other things such as squash and beans and gourds, that sort of thing. Apparently over at West Harbor, there was 2 large sand hills over in this area, and that's where they seem to find the biggest pieces of pottery. And they also found a lot of fireplace stones in great numbers. So they think there was like a lodge there at one point. Also, there was some evidence of a few trails going across the island. You can see them on here. One that comes from West Harbor along down to this village here. Probably pretty much close where the road goes today. And across the island over here to the East Side Park, Percy Johnson Park area, and then of course right along where Main Road is. And then when the European settlers came along and started crowding in on the island, a lot of the areas where they settled was where the village sites were all around the island. Those were already semi-cleared out, so to speak. And at the time of the early Indian settlements on Washington Island and Door County, the Winnebagos seemed to be the most formidable race at the time. And there was some quarrels between the Winnebagos and the Potawatomis. That's where the big story of the Indians in Death's Door came from. But there was also pressure from other tribes that were moving west from the East Coast. As the European settlements came into the East Coast of America, the Indians were forced to move farther and farther west. And one of the last tribes to be here on the island was the one that's most known about, and that's the Potawatomis. And apparently their range of villages and such were all the way down to Milwaukee, all the way up to Washington Island. And the story goes that when the government agents came to try to buy the land from the Indians, they ended up talking to the Menominees about Washington Island in this area and all the way down to Milwaukee. And they claimed that they owned it, so they were the ones that made the deal with the government agent. And the Potawatomis ended up not finding out about it until a few years later. So I found that interesting. I'm not sure if that's true, and maybe one of the speakers later will be able to confirm that for me. And let's see if I can get over to the next picture.
I got it.
This is a picture of Chief Anagasi Kakwatos, who was the last hereditary chief of the Potawatomis. And he is buried over in Peninsula State Park. And apparently he was escorted up to Washington Island before he passed. And his father is buried somewhere on the island. And he knew where he was buried, and so they let him go into the woods alone to give his last respects. And they didn't go with him, so they don't exactly know where that burial site is, but Chief Kakwatos knew where it was. And now I'm going to turn it over to the real historians. Thank you.
My name is Colleen Binns, but I'm also known as Joanna Gate. She carries many words. I'm part of the Oneonta Nation outside of Green Bay, but my ancestors walked here from New York. We're part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also called Iroquois. I am the proud owner of Roy Oshkosh's house in Egg Harbor, and I have been hosting and curating some art shows, and the first one was where I met the second performer today. And I met Sam, the next person, through my store, and we've become really close friends. And they're going to share some really nice stories with you, and they're also part of trying to help me create a Woodland Native Art Center, because I think we gathered here and stayed all summer and didn't leave till harvest time. And I just feel like it'd be a great place to share our stories and create jobs for the future. So I hope you enjoy the performers tonight, and thank you for all coming, and we really appreciate your support. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to add to his story was the Ho-Chunk, or the Winnebago they call them. Their creation story came from Red Banks, just outside the Green Bay area, so it's probably why they were prevalent. And then another thing to understand is they didn't own the land. They, how do I say it? But anyway, it was territories, shared territories. It's hard for us to imagine because we own land. But I think that the problem started when everyone got pushed and people were forced to be in a place where they normally weren't. But we shared and gathered, and there weren't borders on this continent between Canada and South America. Everyone's related. And you'll hear more about that. Enjoy the show.
Right here. Kind of hard to see. Was you indigenous
Nakash, Kakegi, Jik, Makdoda, Bodaway, Wadmi, and Shinabe. My name is Sam Holloway. I come from the Forest County Potawatomi community. I don't know if you can kind of dim these lights up here. I can kind of concentrate. I was asked to come up and speak, and I didn't know what I wanted to talk about, but then I looked back in some of our history and kind of speak by my heart, really. That's where it is, you know, our culture. And I'm a full-blooded Potawatomi, and my ancestors lived here, you know, prior to immigration. So a lot of immigration started back then, before like 1492, somewhere in there. Christopher Columbus. And then on, you know, some of the stuff that, you know, I don't want me to offend anybody, but the truth needs to be really told today of who we are as a people. And I can go on with a lot of things, and I just don't know where to start sometimes. So I'll just dive in, and my name is Sam. I work for my tribe as a Cultural Preservation Division Administrator, and we promote a lot of good, healthy lifestyle through our culture, dealing with drugs and alcohol and, you know, heroin addiction, a lot of that hurtful stuff that comes with that. See, our native people, you know, we can't have sugar. You know, sugar kills us. And everybody knows that. And if you look at labels today, to me it all says cancer on it. And that's what's in them foods, is cancer and sugar. And it's not good for your blood. So as time came on, we were depleted back in the wars, you know, around about George Washington time, you know. A lot of war, Indian wars, fur wars, and a lot of history that I picked up over the years on that. Like I said, I don't know where to start, so I'll start with some of my cultural items here. They're not for sale, you know, they're gifts. But I have another gentleman behind me that does have franchise and sales for himself. So this picture here is from Kewaunee County. I believe it was at a fair. You know, some of our elders before us jumped under, you know, and quite into history. You know, Simon Kokwatos, Anana Gizes is his name. And it goes back to like 1701, peace treaty, and some of the things that we were at war. Some of our people, you know, Sioux and, you know, whatnot, you know, Hurons, and, you know, long before there was even states here, there was no states. We lived off the land, and our creator, Jemani Du, you know, is the one that brought us here through the teachings and how we got here. They say that the food that grows on water, and that's wild rice. So we sent on that journey, and quite a story, you know, how our creation story is, because we also do have 3 other bands that were here. They kind of say we split up out there by Sault Ste. Marie up by Lake Superior. Bodaway Wadmi was, they gave us the task of the keeper of the fire, our Fire Nation people. You know, and a fire is a spirit, you know, it lives in us, and without that, you know, we'll freeze, you know. So we have tools that we, teachings, you know, stories, really good stories, you know, about like, I'll say Nana Boozhoo, them stories, but some we can't really talk about, only like in winter stories. But anyway, Ojibwe, Chippewa, the keeper of faith, and Odawa, some of them call him Ottawa, but they were a keeper of trade at the time, and we split up, and we went our own ways, and the story is that we came down this way, and I think maybe next slide. Okay, here, this here is our homeland. Does this have a? It's on the very top of it. Okay, yeah, here's our homeland, and as you see, this is Door County up this way, and long before these were even states, this is where we lived, and we were very strong. You know, with at the time there was wars going on. I talked about George Washington and all them ones, you know, and so there was a peace treaty way up over here, 1701, where all of the tribes got together and we exchanged our prisoners, and they talked about what was going to be coming on. So everybody was getting ready, but we were getting depleted by other, like United States of America, killing us off, you know, murdering us and our children, especially our children. Just think about your children today, not doing nothing, playing, and all of a sudden, you know, you just get killed for no reason. So that went on over the years. So then we lost ourselves, but we're still strong in that way. A lot of these Potawatomi words, even in Wisconsin, all of them are, you know, Potawatomi, Sheboygan, Milwaukee, and Chicago. And we do have a gathering coming up, and we'll be beating over here. Gun Lake Band. There was nine bands of us left of the Potawatomi Nation. So I really look at all of them as one Potawatomi. We're not like, you know, other, you know, split up in that way, because we have a similar story as I believe the Cherokee. Theirs is the Trail of Tears. And well, our story is that we were in Indiana here, 1832 treaty. That said that we sold all this land, all these, and were given off it by gunpoint. And it's very sad, our story. We come from this over here and went on. And you can read some of that. But I had some stuff that I was going to read, but I'm not going to really read about it, because you know, I'd rather tell it in my own way. You know, what was told to me, what we do today with my elders, and so. 43 treaties with the United States, and not one of them were ever honored. And today, it's really like a contract. If you have a contract, you know, that's what it is. So we lost our lands, and as time went on, you know, a lot of this we do have in our museum, the history of who we are and where we come from, and it's, you know, whenever you guys are in the northern Wisconsin, you really want to know about us. You know, we're still here. We're still strong. We do cultural events. I'll show you a little bit here. So this is our Trail of Death. Whoops. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, this is our Trail of Death. And up over here at Twin Lakes, this is where we started to walk. They put some of us in wagons, and a lot of our kids, you know, and elders, they have to walk, you know. Just figure your moccasins, walking in your moccasins. And I hear nowadays, you know, about moccasins, the teachings, and just figure out how long you can walk. You walk all these 850 miles, you know, to live way over here, west of the Mississippi. The Cherokee have the same story. They come from down in Florida. They were forcibly removed too. But this is our story. Each one of these sites contain a plaque of what happened, what took place there, and it's all documented. And I encourage you guys to read about it today because this is our story. You know, this is true. You know, what's happening today, you know, just think, you know, you want to help out a person, you know, just think if Americans can just put $1 and give it to a family in need. You know, think about it, you know, that would be helping them out. But no, you can't even part with $1, you know, you got to own a bank or something, you know. So, here's one of the plaques here. Warren County, Indiana. I was telling you about each one of those plaques there, they say something about that. And, sometimes, you know, you think, you know, you can see a cemetery over here, and you see the ones over here that passed away. They're probably not even here, they were probably dug up and put somewhere else. So that's another thing that we do today. We repatriate cultural items, and we rebury them. And we have a place in Wisconsin, so that's another story by itself. You know, such as ceremonial items. You know, we go and repatriate them, and take care of them, bring them back home, and put them, you know, where they can be safe. Boarding schools. You guys ever heard of boarding schools? I've been to 2 of them as a child, around about 12, 13 years old. You know, I couldn't go to school. I did go to school, but there was a lot of discrimination going on, and I just couldn't go. I didn't, you know, feel right going to school because I get beaten every day, and you know, so we were taken out of there and placed in boarding schools, and got shipped out to Flanger, South Dakota is one of them that we went to. And the next year I flew out to Intermountain Intertribal School. I can still remember that jet. That was an American airline. And going out to Salt Lake City, then going into Brigham City, Utah to attend an Intermountain Intertribal Indian School. It was a huge school. It used to be a army barracks for the Germans. That's where they took care of, you know, the wounded, the Germans and that. So they converted into an Indian school, and I think about a lot of the things there that, you know, I could have died, you know. I knew I was going to die, but I survived. And, but the ones before us were really worse. My grandmother, you know, growing up in that way, you know, we still feel it today. It's called intergenerational trauma that we all feel. Even you yourselves, you feel that inside too. Because what do you do with it? So today we do ceremonial. We go back to our Creator, you know, God as we see Him. You know, thinking about these ones there that were in charge of these churches, you know, telling us, you know, Jesus saves, you know, all of this stuff, you know, going into your head. And then why do you see this one getting abused over here by a preacher or, you know, a nun or, you know, one of them clergymen that killed our people, you know, molested them, murdered. And so today, you know, we still find our children in these graves, you know, mass graves, you know, they're still finding them. So it's another sad story, but because it still gets me in here yet today. So yeah, you can really talk about a lot about the Indian boarding schools, and so just to me, just pray about it. That's all you can do, you know. Around out by Milwaukee, Menominee River, that's our homeland in Milwaukee. And some of the stories, you know, that are life, you know, that water, that food that grows on water, it was a lot down there in Milwaukee. Even up here in Door County, I think it's a Mink River full of wild rice and all these lakes. And wild rice is good. I don't know if any of you ever had wild rice, but it's good. Some of that, you know, you receiving money and getting, you know, a tribe established and getting recognized in how we are today, you know, in our Constitution, how it was written. We didn't write our Constitution. You know, somebody else wrote our Constitution. We had to follow that. So now it's a law today. I always think about going back and, you know, amending it and write it the way we should write it. But that's another story too. So, coming out of the boarding schools, I'll get back to this here. When I got out of there, you know, it was hard. Life was hard. You know, heroin, drugs, you know, all of that coming into play, and alcohol. I walked down that road, you know, and it's not a good road. You know, I mean, I met a lot of what you call demons, and what it did to me in my life. But anyway, we're given this money, and we're told that go live in a city. They call it relocation funds. So they give us, our ones before us too, are places like Chicago or Milwaukee or big cities, and given money to, and given a place to stay. So off we went. We didn't last long, you know, because the money ran out, and next thing you know, all that traumatization came in. You know, he started using alcohol, some of us. Me, I lost quite a few, you know, due to alcohol. A lot of my friends are not really here today. You know, they walked on, and but that's another story there too. So this is where we live today. I live about right here. We have a museum here. These are all our lands in this area. And my grandmother told me that we come from over this way, called Tripoli. We were being hunted back in the day. And that's where her relatives ran, and they were hiding. And then as time went on, Simon Coquados, you hear a lot about him. He was a spokesman for our tribe. He worked with a minister. He was called Reverend Morstad. And he established a tribe here. And I don't know, I'm just kind of trying to hurry up. I don't like hurrying up sometimes, but this is where we live. We have a museum here. We have, this is all our cultural events, and just tons of stuff that we do today, and that we still strive. And if you ever get over this way, see we're like over here now, you know, come on down here and stop in here, say hello. And we got nine tribes in Wisconsin. We have 11 Potawatomi tribes that are federally recognized today. And I was telling you about the gathering that's going to be next week. It's all going to be in Gun Lake, Michigan. On the other side of the lake, that's very important. This is what we lived in. I remember my grandparents living in tar paper houses like that. You know, man, that was luxury. And some of our elders, you know, they couldn't adapt to this. So they looked at it and they said, "Oh man, that's a really nice chicken coop. You know, this a barn. This is a real good barn." But we lived like in wigwams, and we still build them today. Yet we still teach our children, you know, where we come from and the stories. Really, really good stories. I love stories. I love the stories because they're very powerful in our community to tell these young ones where we come from. so that they have that direction to carry on too, and taking this knowledge, cultural knowledge, and taking it into the future. This here was given to me by my mother, and it's my mother's Arlene Holloway, or Holloway. There was a guy, his name was like Alloway. You ever hear of Alloway, Wisconsin? It's a French name that was given back in the day, and not, you know, Christian names and stuff like that. And this is her collection. And I asked her, you know, she's 97 years old today, and she lives at One Lung. And I think about all of that, you know. And, these are her relatives, you know, ones before us, but they came here to pick charities. You know, every year, you guys just finished up on charities. But to them, they travel from Forest County over here and pick cherries. And my grandfather, what he did with the money he made was he would buy seeds. He would buy axe heads. He would buy a lot of tools that he'd use over the winter. Get ready for next year, he would say. Always, you know, hunt off the land and, you know, eat wild meat. And, you know, that's really good today. So that's another thing we teach. Maybe I ran out of slides, I think. Yeah, this is my grandmother here, her relatives. We have more of these black and white photos in our museum. A lot of our family are members, tribal members that do have families. They have archives and they bring in their own photos. We just take a copy of them. We give the originals back to them so that their young ones can one day come in and say, who is this? You know, hey, this is my grandpa, my great-grandfather. So all of these ones here. This one was in, can't see that far. You guys remember this photo? How I know where his grave is. This here was unreal, and there's a plaque underneath here. It's still in the golf course today, but his grave is down over here, somewhere in here. He was one of our chiefs. I look at him as today's. That was our executive council back then. You know, all of them spoke the language, Potawatomi language. None of them knew the English, just very broken English. Then again, they would get teased in school because they didn't know how to speak English. You know, we're discriminated toward, like, you know, dumb Indian, you know, savage or stuff like that. You know, but anyway, these ones here, you know, are the ones that really looked into the tribe of where we're at today. And Simon Coquados, you know, they buried him here. That was his wishes, to be buried next to his father up in Peninsula State Park. And not only that, there's burials all over here. I can go on a computer here and look at a lot of the cultural sites around the Great Lakes here, and a lot of them in Potawatomi, and it's very interesting, you know, archaeology and things like that nature. I do help out with our ancestral, like repatriation and reburial of, you know, all of them. The last time I carried a 600-year-old skeleton and put that person, whoever that was, back into the earth, along with about 300 other skeletal remains. And it was kind of hard in a way. But, you know, they already had their funeral, you know, so all we have to do is just put them back and mark them, just leave them there. We have a place that's designated in Wisconsin. 9 bands of the tribes in Wisconsin, that's where they take the remains and put them in there. So a lot of the museums, they hold them, and just think about, you know, your own family, your grandparents, you know, how would you like to have somebody dig them up and put them on display somewhere where everybody can look at them, you know, that's not right. You guys know what that is? I got to watch this come in, you know, as a child. You know, when we were growing up, we grew up in the woods. You know, the ones before us, you know, what they taught us, and, you know, I hung on to that. You know, even going into boarding schools, you know, it's in here. That's where it lives. So, with this here, it's good in a way, and again, it's bad. But it brought a lot of things to our tribe. Even Wisconsin, offsetting taxes, you know, doing a lot of things with Wisconsin. And not only that, other tribes do the same thing. And yeah, it's brought a lot of buildings on the tribe, housing, you know, see that house that you just seen, upgraded something like that into a different house. And it brought housing, health, and education. And we still, you know, do it today, and what we do with the money here, you know, it benefits everybody. So all of you are winners. Today we have a buffalo farm. You know what this one is? What does that mean to you? There's a story about this white buffalo. It's a Sioux prophecy, and I often wonder about this. This here is a ceremonial sacred pipe. It was given to me. It's not mine. It's the people's pipe. It's all of you, everybody's. It's a ceremonial pipe. How we smoke. We smoke this to say our prayers with. It's directly created with the creation of the heart, the way we believe in. And it's not to be like made profit of. You know, I see a lot of people, they make profit off of the tobacco today. And here's, we call it an insama. It's, it comes from the Creator, and it was given, tobacco was given to the Anishinaabe people, and how we use it, you know, you can abuse it sometimes too. But today, it's a relative of the stuff that you get in the store, you know. That's another, like a brother to them. But this here is pure tobacco, and its only intentions from the Creator was to pray with. That was all. But back to the white buffalo. There's a story about that, the Sioux, you know. It means peace, the peace on earth, this animal here. You know, all of these animals back here. You know, we got this farm, and to me, when I was looking at the whole tribe, and I was thinking, man, we got this farm, and we got to, you know, show these ones how to, you know, take care of who's going to take care of these up the road. You know, so by hunting all my life, we did the same thing as process the meat on some of these. It was a community event, you know, and a lot of us got there. We, you know, harvest the buffalo and process the meat and distribute it into the community and whoever wanted some meat. And then we took the hide and we tanned it. We tanned 2 of them. We made drums out of this hide, and the other one we left the hair on. this represents the peace. And if you really look at it, I encourage you to look at this story, what it means, and what it means today, because it means peace. On all human race, that's what that means. There's never been a white buffalo, but they pass on, you know, so, like they tell the story. Okay, this year's the museum. You know, we have a gift shop there, our gallery. Our gallery is over on this end right here. And down here is where we do like a lot of cultural events, just tons of stuff. And we got the library, a lot of Native American history, archives, a lot that we catalog, and a lot of books on the Potawatomi people. Here's the buffalo high tan. This day here, this is one of them that we harvested. I'm not sure if it was this one, but this day was a very special day. It was like probably, probably 40, 50 below zero in wind. And all of us community members went out and this is what we see. Came out here, all these buffalo, they just opened up. This one just stood right in the middle. And this one gave himself. I think it was this one here. So we harvested them. And we tanned it. Had a big workshop on it. Smoking the inside. See how it gets tanned in here? But we just keep scraping. Drums. Make hand drums out of hides. These are out of deer hides. The gentleman next to me, he'll probably say a few words about this guy here. He's a really funny guy. His name is Marvin Defoe. He came and did a workshop on canoe building. This is how we built a canoe. And laced it up. There's no nails in here. It was all done by spruce root. How we started out with models, and all the kids in the community really liked this guy, you know, and at his last day he was kind of sad, you know. I knew he had a tear, you know, just the way things were feeling. So these little kids, you know, they must have felt the same. They said, hey, you should come back and make a great big one. The guy, he turns around, big smile on his face. That's probably what he wanted to hear. So he did come back, and the community made this canoe. And not only this, there was 3 other canoes in the community, and we're going to have a Potawatomi gathering next week, and our cultural program. They're going to float, I believe, 3 of them down the Menominee River in Milwaukee. That's going to be like a little bit of a historic event. So if you're ever down in Milwaukee next Sunday, I believe, maybe check it out. They're just going to float them and leave. But we do have events with canoe building, and it just goes on with the culture. So like I said, you know, I got, you know, a lot of, like the time-wise, I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to be speaking here, but history. Okay, these ones here we still make today. These are by our museum. It's an outdoor exhibit. This is cedar. We also bake cedar mats. We go out in the woods and we harvest the cedar. We can make a rope out of this. But this one here is made out of like cedar, and then these are birch bark. That's part of our outdoor exhibit. We have like schools and, you know, visitors that come and kind of like look at what we do today. And the community made it again, showing them. This is our museum, our gallery, or not our gallery, but our gallery hall. This is where we do a lot of our events, you know, funerals and, you know, birthday parties and Indigenous games. Some of our youth went to Canada, you know, as part of that, they played up in Canada, Indigenous games. People from all over the place. This is one of our gatherings here, so you'll see over here, these are the bands of Potawatomi today. There's a couple more added to this. We'll be going to this one next week, next Sunday. Here we have language. We promote our language immersion. They talk about the language, strictly language, so there's hardly any English. And that's a really good workshop. This lady here, she was a very spiritual person. She, anything wrong, I was told that she would already know I was wrong, she just by the way you talk and the way you look, she would help you out. She did like a lot of the medicines in the tribe. She also even wrote a little book of how to use these things. So, any questions or anything? But yeah, it's our history, and we still live today, and it's just ongoing, and our story, you know, is very, very real, and none of this you're going to hear in the schools, residential schools. And I highly encourage you to get educated on who we are, because we're still here today, and Door County is one of them. Washington Island, I wish I could have shared a lot with you on Washington Island, the cemeteries. I seen a historic document that was up here earlier, and that one's pretty accurate. And we have some that contain like archaeological digs and what took place before the 1600s. A lot of the ones that found these things, you know, they say around after 1832. That last treaty was signed, that's when everybody started, you know, moving in and taking care of things, and you know, push us out. But and again, we're still here today, and I really want to, you know, thank you guys for coming here and listening to the story. I know I can't see none of you guys up there, you know, but to me, I feel good. I feel honored to be here, and I'd just like to say, you know, Miigwech, thank you. And I'll just turn it over to the next person here. And he's a really good guy here. And man, you're going to really enjoy him. And he can tell his story. And Miigwech.
I already forgot just walking here. Anyway, nothing very important, but oh, I know what it was, sorry. After the next speaker is done, when we're all done, we're going to do a little, if people want to stay for a question and answer time, please stick around, because we're going to be open to that also, so thanks.
So I met Michael when I guest curated a show of different woodland peoples in the library in Egg Harbor through Dawn Patel, who also had a business called The Brilliant Stranger. And we joked because she was the real Indian on the north end of Egg Harbor, and I was the not Indian on the south end. But we showcased people, and Dawn used to live in the area where Michael comes from. And I am so happy to have him be a part of the beginning of this Woodland Native Art Center that I'm going to come to fruition, hopefully. And so please enjoy Michael Charette, Laughing Fox. Bayville area, Redcliffe, Ojibwe.
Chimigwich to Sam for presenting some Potawatomi history. I do have relatives in Potawatomi country, a few nephews and a niece. They happen to be half Chippewa and half Potawatomi, so we affectionately call them our potato chips. Hello to all of my relatives out there this evening. Papewa Gush, Ninda Jinikash, Laughing Fox is my name. Ninda Bigasidu Dave, I come from the Eagle clan, and this Squabi Kong Nindunjaba. I'm a member of the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. Located in the most furthest part of Wisconsin that you can travel, there's a small group of islands on the south shores of Lake Superior called the Apostle Islands. And that's where the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Ojibwe, that's where we call home. But get this, there are 22 Apostle Islands. So, not only were the first explorers lost at sea, but they also couldn't count. I travel all over Turtle Island. I give cultural demonstrations. I talk about history. I talk about music. And I talk about our stories. When I first started to learn our stories, I was just Bungi Ikugo Obanuji, just a little boy. And at that age, we all have a hard time, most of us have a hard time sitting down and listening and being quiet during our story time. And my grandmother, she would tell me, Bazanian. And she would say Bazanian to me so much that I actually thought that was my Indian name. She would say Bazanian, and I'd say, yeah, right here, Grandma. And she would say, Gawi, no, Bazanian means be quiet. You're too loud. Followed up with the I'll come here. Anamanta bin, sit down in a biz done. I'll listen. And she would always start her storytelling off like that. She would say, a long time ago, back when the world was forever cold. She's directly referencing that time of the Ice Age. Some 11 to 13,000 years ago, she would say our stories go back so far and so many generations that we don't even know how far back they go. I only know she would start her storytelling off with a long time ago, back when the world was forever cold. And a long time ago, back when it was just the Creator in the universe. The Creator, He would send out His voice across the universe. And it would return to the Creator without being heard. And this made the Creator lonely. Then the Creator, He would have a Bawajigi, a vision. And in this vision, He saw all these different galaxies full of stars. He would see our galaxy, and as he got closer to it, he would see all the planets within our galaxy. He would see Mother Earth, and as he got closer to Mother Earth, he would hear all the different sounds that Mother Earth made, from the oceans to the volcanoes. He would see all the different life on Mother Earth. He would see all the different animals, and he would hear all their different songs. And when the Creator awoke from this vision, he realized that he needed to bring into being that which had been seen and felt. So he would gather stuff from the four quarters of the universe, and he would grab what the Ojibwe called the Miga shell, and he would blow life into our world. After the Creator had made Mother Earth, he would look down on his creation and he would realize that he would need somebody to walk through creation and to name everything in creation, to visit all those sacred places. So the Creator would lower down original man, he who didn't have a name, and he would task him to walk through creation and name everything. And as original man set off on his task, he started to name all those things in creation, and then he spent a lot of time with our animal relatives. And as he spent time with them, he realized that our animal relatives had a unique wisdom unto themselves, and that we, as humans, we would do well to learn from our animal relatives. In addition to having wisdom, they also came in twos. And yet, he, original man, was all alone. So again, he would go before the Creator and he would ask the Creator, Creator, why does everything come in twos, yet I am all alone? And the Creator would respond with, I will send somebody to walk, talk, and play with you. And he would send to him the Mayingan, the wolf. You would say, Creator, what would you have me do with this wolf? He said, well, together, you two will travel through creation. Visit all those sacred places. Name everything in creation. So the two set off on their task. And as they did so, they became bonded like brothers. And after they had visited all those sacred places, and they had named everything in creation, they again would go before the Creator. And they would ask the Creator, Creator, now with our task complete, now what will you have of us? And the Creator would respond with, now you must go your separate ways. And they looked at each other because they had been bonded like brothers. We must go our separate ways, yes, because the oncoming people, they will not understand your bond, and they will fear you, and they will hunt you. So, from that day forth, Mayingan and original man had split and had went their separate ways. This first song that I'm going to share with you is a song about the loss of that relationship from the Mayingan and the human. And where I come from, the Red Cliff Reservation, we have a wolf sanctuary. We don't allow the hunting of our four-legged relatives there because we have prophecies that talk about the wolf and that say what happened to the wolf will also happen to man. So we always have to respect our four-legged relatives. And this song I'm going to share with you, I learned from the wolf pack back home, the Echo Valley wolf pack. We actually collar them and we watch them to make sure that they don't get into too much trouble. And we would see that they had went all the way from Red Cliff, Bayfield, the Apostle Islands area, all the way up into Canada, up into the Boundary Waters. So it's pretty amazing how far some of our animal relatives will travel. This song is called Mayingan, the wolf. And if you listen, you will be able to hear those wolves calling back and forth to each other. people in general. We have creation stories for everything out there. We have creation stories on why the raccoon wears a mask. We have creation stories on how the Apostle Islands were created. And we even have creation stories why the Animush, why the dog, why they smell each other's butts. Yes, yes. You can imagine the stories my students want to hear first. But my grandmother, my Nokomis, she always told me that whenever I go outside of my community, I'm always to tell the creation story of the flute. Because it's a story about unconditional love. We talked a little bit about the Maingan, the wolf, who for the Anishinaabe represents humility. Because the wolf taught us how to hunt. The wolf taught us how to treat each other like a family. The one who represents love in our culture is the Migizi, the eagle. One of the reasons why he represents love is because it said that the Migizi, the eagle, that he can see the farthest and he can fly the highest. And that when we pray, it's the eagle who takes our prayers up to be heard by the spirits and by the Creator. So a lot of times you'll come into our communities and you will see that the eagle feathers that we have hold a special place of honor. And we consider them to have a spirit all of their own. And there are rules that go along with having feathers. You can only gain one if you have accomplished something great like graduating. Or perhaps sobriety from addiction as well, fighting that war. Our veterans often will get those feathers as well. So yes, the Migizi represents love for us, and that's why you'll see us decorate ourselves with the Migizi feathers a lot of times. And I can only speak for the Ojibwe, as you know, the Potawatomi might have different ceremony and different stories as well. But this story happens like a lot of stories happen. A long time ago in a village far, far away. There was a young man in this village, and this young man, he was good at everything. He was good at hunting. He was good at fishing. He was a good provider. But one thing he was not good at is he was not good at expressing his feelings. And one day, this young man came back from the hunt, successful. And as the village celebrated his success, he would look across the fire to see the image of this beautiful young woman, his heart's desire. And he would say to himself, this is it. This is when I go up to her and I tell her how I feel about her. So the young man, he worked up his courage and he walked up to her and he opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Embarrassed by this, he retreated to the outskirts of the village where he had watched as other young men of the same courting age would talk to her and try to get her attention and her affection. And this frustrated the young man. He would even work on his hand drum songs. He would say to himself, I'm going to sing this song to her. And he would start singing, this little Chippewa, he's going to chip away at your heart. Didn't work. The young man, he would remember his teachings from his elders. And they taught him that there is a love medicine out there. And this young man thought to himself if he could somehow go out there and hunt this creature who held the love medicine, who happened to be called the Ayabe, a huge albino buck that lives to the west. He thought to himself, if I can hunt this Ayabe, I can somehow get that love medicine, and then I can present it to my heart's desire, and then she will know how I feel about her. So the young man, he packed up a bunch of provisions, and he went out into the woods, and he found the biggest set of tracks that he could find, and he thought to himself, this is it. This has got to be the Ayabe. So he started to follow those tracks through the woods, and they led him deeper and deeper into the woods, further and further away from his village. He would see a flash of white out of the corner of his eye. The Ayabe! He'd grab his bow and arrow, and he'd pull it back, but it would be gone. Again, he'd follow those tracks, and they led him deeper and deeper into the woods, still further and further away from his village. He would see that flash of white out of the corner of his eye. The Ayabe! And he'd grab his bow and arrow, and he'd pull it back, but it would be gone. Finally, the young man, he was exhausted from his travels, and he made camp underneath the cedar tree. And as he was sitting there watching the fire, listening to the crackle and pop, he started to think about his heart's desire. And somewhere, way off into the distance, off into the night, he heard a sound. he heard the sound of a knocking. And the young man, he would open his eyes up and he would look up into that tree, and he would see that there was a beneshi in that tree, a bird in that tree, and that beneshi had been dancing on this branch. And as this beneshi danced on this branch, it knocked holes into this branch. And then when the beneshi flew away, the wind picked up and it went over those holes, and it made that same sound that the young man had heard in his dreams. The young man knew instantly that that's what he was looking for. He would stand up and he reached up into the tree and he grabbed a hold of that branch and he broke it off. And as he was sitting there studying it, he was trying to figure out, how do I get that sound to come from that branch? So he began to blow on it like this. Nothing. He blew on it like this. Still no sound. He was even going like this, trying to mimic the wind going over those holes. But still no sound came forth. Out of answers, again, he would sit there and look at the fire. And then again, he was reminded of his teachings from his elders, that whenever we seek something, we have to offer something. The young man would reach into his pouch and he would pull something out, some asema, some tobacco, sacred to the indigenous peoples. We use it to commune with the spirits, to talk to the Creator. The young man, he would say a prayer to the spirit of that bird, and he would offer his tobacco to the fire, which would turn his tobacco into smoke, bringing his prayers up to be heard by the spirits. While he was sitting there, waiting for an answer, he would fall asleep. And in his dreams, the bird would visit him, and it would ask him, "What is it that you are seeking?" And the young man told him of his dilemma, told him about his heart's desire and his inability to communicate his feelings, told him about the ayabe, how it led him to that spot in the woods where he heard that beautiful sound, told him about the other young men in the village and his frustrations at them. After a while of listening, the dream bird took pity on the young man and began to tell him the secret of the bibiguan, the Ojibwe word for flute. He would tell him how long to make the flute, where to put the holes into the flute. And he said, whenever you blow into the bibiguan, clear your mind, have the image of your heart's desire here, and you feel it here. And when you blow into the bibiguan, it'll wabiguan out of the other end. Wabiguan, the Ojibwe word for flower. Your feelings, they will flower out of the other end, and people will know how you feel. Upon waking from this vision, the young man begins to construct the very first flute out there in the woods. And as he's almost done with it, he carves out a beneshi, a bird, to put on top of the flute, out of love, respect, and honor for the one who taught him how to make that unique, beautiful sound. Then the young man, he was many days away from his village, so he started to make his long journey back home. Each time that he stopped to take a break, a bird would land by him, and it would sing to him and encourage him to use his flute to sing back. He would finally make his way back to his village, and as he stood on a hill, he looked down, and he could see everybody in his village. They were all busy. They were all getting ready for the changing of the seasons. Some people were working on birch bark canoes. Some people were dancing on wild rice. Some people were gathering berries. Some people were smoking fish, right? Smoke fish, not drugs. That's what I tell my students. This young man, he would stand on this hill. He would close his eyes. He had the image of his heart's desire here, and he felt it here, and he began to blow into the bibiguan. That sound made its way from his flute, and it went down into his village. And everyone that heard that sound stopped what they were doing, because no one had ever heard anything like that before. Finally, that sound made its way to the wigwam of the young woman, the wigwam, the traditional home of the Anishinaabe people. And as soon as she heard that sound, she knew instantly that that was for her. She would come out of her wigwam like that, look up onto the hill, see this young man standing up there making this unique, beautiful sound. And she knew who he was. And she always wondered why he would never come and talk to her. She would go and stand next to him, and she was so amazed and overwhelmed that somebody could express so much emotion without uttering a single word. And as she listened, she realized that the sound, the music, the medicine was intertwining their souls together. Yes, my grandmother, she had so many wonderful and beautiful stories. She would often talk about the animals and the plants. She would say, you know, we as humans, we think we're so smart. She goes, but really, we're the most pitiful creatures here on Mother Earth. That when we come out into the world, that we're crying, that we can't stand up, we can't defend ourselves, we can't run away if there's danger, we can't keep ourselves warm. We very much rely on those gifts from our four-legged relatives so that we as humans may survive and thrive here. And she also would talk about the plants in the same way. She would say, you know, there's no greater example of unconditional love from a creator to a people than to gift us with a plant that would heal us, a plant that could make us feel better. And listening to these stories from kindergarten all the way till I graduated high school really put into character that relationship that we share with that natural world, always reminding us. And after I heard those stories about these animals and about their sacrifices to us, that made me think twice before I pulled that dog's tail or pulled on the cat's whiskers, you know. And whenever I travel around and do cultural demonstrations, when my audience is a lot younger, they get a lot of those funnier animal stories, you know. But a lot of them have a hard time just sitting still and listening, right? And my grandmother, she would tell me, I know this story about another little boy who thought he knew everything. And he would go up all the time and he would interrupt adults when they were trying to do their important work. And he would start to tell them how to do their job better. His name was Winnebuju. And it said that a long time ago, Winnebuju, as he wandered through his village, he would see people working on birch bark canoes. And he would walk up to them and tell them which kind of spruce roots to use and what kind of lashing to make it a better, stronger canoe. And those adults would look at the young Winnebuju and say, oh, Winnebuju, Bazani on, you're just bungy, you're just a little kid. Majan, go play, go be a little kid somewhere. And all day long he was met with that kind of mentality from the adults. And this frustrated him. And at the time, the young Winnebuju spent a lot of time with his Nokomis, his grandmother. So he would seek her out for counsel. And he would find her out in the woods picking medicines. And he would run up to her and say, Nokomis, I have a problem, can you help me? She would say, why yes, Winnebuju, what is it, how can I help you? And he would begin to tell her about the treatment of the adults and how they just thought he was just a dumb little kid. You know, and she's like, well, what are you asking me, Winnebuju? He's like, grandmother, I know that you know all the plant medicines. Is there a medicine out there that will help me get smarter? She goes, oh, Winnebuju, you want to be smarter? Why? He said, well, grandmother, when I'm the smartest man in the village, everybody's going to listen to my great ideas. Everybody's going to do what I say because I'm going to be Winnebuju, the smartest man alive. And Nokomis, she kind of thought about this for a bit. She goes, you know what, Winnebuju, there is a medicine out there in the woods, but I have to go out and find it. You will have to come back. So the very excited young Winnebuju, he runs out into the woods and he starts to think about how he's going to be the smartest man in the world. He starts to have these delusions of grandeur. And pretty soon, he's so excited by that prospect that he goes back to look for his grandmother. And he finds her out in the woods picking medicines. And he would say to her, grandmother, did you find that medicine that will help me get smarter? She said, well, yes, I did, Winnebuju, it's right here. She would reach down into her pouch and she would pull something out. She would unwrap it. And she would say, here, Winnebuju, eat these. These are smart berries. These will help you get smarter. So the young Winnebuju looked down at what grandmother held in her hand and he made this face. And then he put his nose down there and he smelled it. And he went, oh, grandmother. He said, that's rabbit shit. She goes, oh, see, Winnebuju, it's working. You're getting smarter already. My grandmother, my Nokomis, who taught us these stories, she would actually have a plastic baggie full of rabbit poop. And if we weren't listening to her at story time, she would take some out and she would dare us to eat it. She would say, well, you don't have to listen to your stories anymore because you're smart enough. Have some more smart berries. But by then, we had already heard that story. So we smartened up, right? Oh, no, thank you, Grandma. No, thank you. We know what that is. But many years later, we would find out that the joke would really be on us because really what she was trying to feed us was only chocolate-covered raisins. Yes. I like to tell that story first because it's one of the very first stories I remember listening to as a kid. And when you hear these stories all throughout your whole life, they start to take on different meanings as you're a different person throughout different times in our life. And when we look at our stories, it's not really up to the storytellers to tell you what you're supposed to take away from that story, but even these funny stories can have a deeper meaning. What was this story about? Was it a story about wisdom, about knowing what is good for us and what is not good for us? Using that gift from the Creator to decipher that for ourselves. Or maybe this was a story for our youth, for our kids, to have patience and let experience be the teacher. But that's up for you. That's up to you on what you take away from these stories. As we share them, our stories become your stories. Yes. I would listen to my grandmother's stories, and I would let them guide me all through my whole life. And when I found my first flute, or when the first flute found me, I would take it and I would go out into the woods. And I would do just as my grandmother said. I would sit down, I would be quiet, and I would listen. And I would listen to the wind through the leaves. I would listen to the raindrops on the canopy. I'd listen to the streams, and I would try to play these things, mimic them. And one day when I was sitting out in the woods listening, I could hear an animal coming my way. And I knew this animal was too small to be anything serious, like a muckwa, like a bear. When I finally looked over my shoulder to see what it was, I saw that it was an Ejiptimo, a squirrel, followed by another Ejiptimo, and pretty soon these squirrels were chasing each other around in the woods, having a really fun time, making a bunch of noises. And I thought to myself, I had heard stories that flute players could talk to our four-legged relatives, so I tried to reach out and talk to them, thinking that I would scare these squirrels away. But a funny thing happened is they actually got more curious, and they came closer. It was a very surreal moment for me, as I felt like I was communicating with our four-legged relatives. Later on that evening, I would be having supper with my mother, and I'd tell her, I'd say, "Mom, you should have saw those squirrels all lining up listening to me play flute." And she kind of looked at me skeptically, and she goes, "Oh, you're just nuts." That's why I hear you out there. This next song I'm going to share, I actually learned from two squirrels out in the woods. It's called Ejiptimo Wani, which means squirrel tail. And I always tell my students, it's good to listen to your parents, your grandparents, your teachers, your educators, but we do have teachers out there in the woods. And if you're quiet and you listen, we can learn from them as well. This next song is called Ejiptimo Wani, the squirrel tail. And if you listen with your eyes closed, you'll be able to see those squirrels chasing each other up and down those trees in the woods. stories, but I did have a grandfather too, and he did tell a lot of stories. In fact, a lot of those older people in our community, I consider them, almost grandfather, grandmothers, once they get to a certain point. And Sam was talking about one of my teachers up here building the canoe, Mr. Marvin Defoe, and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about the flutes, and all throughout my whole life, we reclaimed that which was lost, and we still are today. But those grandfathers, those tricksters, you have to be careful when you listen to them. The grandmothers love you unconditional, but the real tricksters are the grandfathers. And when I was a young brave myself, just learning our hunting ways, my grandfather, he would say, "Oh, you're not in any shape to be out there hunting in the woods." And I thought I was in pretty good shape. I was a young boxer, I was running all the time and stuff. And I said, "Oh yeah, how's that?" He's like, "Well, when I was a young man, younger than you are now," he's like, "in order to hunt a deer," he's like, "I was so fast, in so much shape, that I would see the deer and I would start to run right alongside of him. And as I ran right alongside of him, I would take out my mokum on my knife. And he's like, while I ran alongside of him, I would take him out. And by the time he hit the ground, I had him already field dressed. So I could pick him up and take him home and feed you kids." I was like, "Oh wow, holy man, Grandpa." And he's like, "Not only do you have to be strong, you have to be smart too." He's like, I hunt, all I need to hunt with is a rock." And we're like, "A rock? Really, Grandpa?" He's like, "Yeah, you gotta go and you find that runway with those Wabash Gacy run, those deer." He's like, "You put that big rock out there." He goes, "You take out some gawisi gun, some pepper." He said, "You put some pepper on that rock, and then you go back and you wait for those deer to come." And he said, "When those deer come, they're gonna see what's on that rock, they're gonna go over there, they're gonna get curious, and they're gonna start to sniff it, and they're gonna snort it into their nose." He's like, "And then they're gonna sneeze. And when they sneeze, they're gonna hit their head on that rock. And they're gonna knock themselves out. And then we just come over here and we will clean him up. And we'll take him home to feed you kids." Yeah. These are some of the stories I heard growing up. So it's hard, wisdom. They would say, "Oh, hey, it's mosquito season," and you can see kids are starting to slap mosquitoes. And they said, "Now remember, if you eat the first mosquito that bites you, none of them will mess with you for the rest of the year." I want you to pass that teaching on to your kids, your grandkids, and nieces and nephews. Yes. For a while there, the Anishinaabe, the culture, the language, it was kind of under attack. And I would ask my grandmother and grandfather the importance of our language. And they always had so many wonderful stories to educate us. But this is one that I remember. He said a long time ago that there was a boy and a girl, a granddaughter and a grandson. And their parents were really busy, and they would often leave the children with the grandfather out in the woods. We lived way out in the woods in a cabin. And they had some of their most favorite times out there running and playing in the woods. But one day they were out there visiting their grandfather. They found this old clearing out in the woods. And as they were sitting there playing, they heard this old voice, this old strange voice go, "Anindi da Toyan." And it scared them because they didn't see anybody standing around, and they were listening. They could hear that voice, "Anindi da Toyan." And they got so afraid of this voice, this mysterious voice in the woods, that they ran back to their grandfather's lodge. And they would go in there and they would say, "Grandfather, grandfather, we hear this strange voice out in the woods. We don't know what it's saying, but it sounds like that language that you speak." So the grandfather said, "Well, come with me. Show me in the woods where you hear this voice." So they would go out into that clearing. And as they sat there listening, the grandfather was straining to hear. And of course, a little bit goes by and they hear, "Anindi da Toyan." And the grandfather looked at the kids and he shouted back at the voice, "Odatun ki amikanan." And then he told his grandchildren, "Come, let's leave this place." And that night they gathered in the lodge around his fire and they started to ask the grandfather questions. They said, "Grandfather, what was that voice that we heard out in the woods? What was it? It scared us." And the grandfather explained to them. He said, "That voice that you heard in the woods was a spirit. And the spirit was asking in Ojibwe, Nindi de Toyam, where should I put it? He said, you see, that spirit had taken something that did not belong to it. And it could not move on to the next world because it still held it. So it was asking, Nindi de Toyam, where should I put it? So I shouted back to it, O Datimaki, put it back where you found it. And the little kids asked the grandfather, Grandfather, do you think that the voice listened? And the grandfather said, that I cannot tell you. But they would go back to that clearing and they would listen for that voice. This next song that I'm going to play is called The Old Voice. Yes, we have many different stories about all kinds of different things. And this next flute I will share with you is the Ondag. And it's said that at one time the Ondag was one of the most beautiful colored birds of all the birds on Mother Earth. That it had all the different colors of the rainbow within his plumage, and that he loved us humans unconditional, and that he would just sit there and spread his beautiful wings for us. And we would just be in awe of how beautiful this creature was. In addition to having some of the most beautiful colored feathers, he also had one of the most beautiful singing voices. It sounded like the collective songbirds of Mother Earth singing through one bird. And he would just sit there and sing for us. And we were just in awe of how beautiful this bird was. And we loved him unconditionally as well. And he would look down at his relatives, the humans. And he would realize that we were living life in a pretty pitiful kind of way. That we did not yet know how to keep ourselves warm at night. That we could not feed ourselves properly. That we did not yet have the gift of fire. So the Ondag, he took it upon himself to fly to the sun so that he could harness some of that energy for us. And of course, as he started to make his long journey from Mother Earth to the sun, and as he got closer and closer, his beautiful plumage that was all the different colors of the rainbow started to singe and turn black. He would finally make his way to the surface of the sun where he'd reach out a talon, and his talon would be scorched black. He would sing with his beautiful singing voice, and that too would be burnt, raspy. He would gather up some of that energy from the sun, and he made his long journey back to Mother Earth, where he would gift it to us humans. And we rejoiced, because now we could feed ourselves properly. Now we could keep ourselves warm at night. But we very much saw the sacrifices that Ondag, the crow, has made for us. And when you see the crow out there today, look at his black feathers. And when the sunlight hits him just right, you will see a reflection of that rainbow flicker through his feathers, and that's to remind us of the sacrifices that not only the Ondag, the crow, has made for us, but what all of our animal relatives have made for us. In addition to those sacrifices, the crow, the Ondag, is also one of the most smartest birds out there. He's taught us how to hunt, taught us where the food was in the woods, and we never see a crow hit on the side of the road because they always have one perched up in the tree looking out for his brothers. And when he sees a car coming, he yells out to his other crow brothers, "Caw, caw, caw!" That's right, I'm a teacher and a dad. This next song I'm going to share with you is called The Trickster. Flutes here. I have over 20 flutes. Each one has its own unique spirit, its own story, and its own song with it. When I found my first flute, of course, I would go and sit in the woods. And I played one note, and that one note affected me so much that I just sat there for like 2 hours straight, just blowing into the flute. This flute came to me by way of one of my brothers back home. He had found a wolf out in the woods that had perished, and he scavenged it. He took the hide and he took some bones and he made flutes out of it. And he would come and he gifted me this bone flute. And he said, yes, many years from now, we'll come together and we'll play the same song on the same animal. And I just thought, wow, what a beautiful, beautiful story. So I would take the flute, I would go out in the woods, I would start to learn its song. Way off into the distance, I could hear wolves howling, so I started to howl. With those wolves, I made this really nice flute music video. I would post it later to social media with a really nice paragraph story about it, and the title, The Wolfbone Echo. And in the comment section, I would see that the flute maker had made a comment, and he said on there, oh hey, I forgot to tell you that's not really a wolf bone. And I was like, what? You know, so later on I would see him, you know, and I said, hey, that's not a wolf bone, what's going on with that? You know, I even titled the song Wolfbone Echo. You know, I'm not changing it. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. He said, that flute I gave you, it's not a wolf bone. He said, actually, it's a cougar bone. And I went, oh, geez. I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. And he's like, well, how's that? And I said, well, whenever I play it on a full moon, all the cougars come out. This next song that we're going to play is called The Wolfbone Echo, played on a cougar bone flute. Out there. The flute in general is pretty old. One of the very first flutes that they found, they carbon dated it, and it was between 30 and 60,000 years old, and it was made out of the rib bone of a cave there. So this music has been with us for a very, very long time, resonating within our human DNA. Some of the older instruments too is the drum, which represents that heartbeat of Mother Earth. The rattle, which represents that water. Everybody understands we need water to live. Water is sacred. And the human singing voice too, is one of the oldest instruments out there. I always get caught up so much in the storytelling and stuff, and some things kind of get left off on the wayside, you know. And just earlier today, I told a very nice history piece on the Anishinaabe people, the Ojibwe people. Some know us as the Chippewa people. And I did tell us some of the creation stories from the people, but for the Anishinaabe people, now some people, depending on where you get your sources, would say that we became the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Chippewa, maybe some 2,000 years ago, as we would break off of one Algonquin mother group. And as we migrated throughout the Great Lakes chain systems, that mother group would break off to become 29 different Algonquin-speaking groups. Some of those do include the Potawatomi and the Menominee, the Odawa, the Cree, even as far as the East Coast in Maine. I just got back from the Wabanaki community, and I visited a site there that was 11,000 years old. They put stone tools in my hands that carbon dated back 4,000 years old. And they too share that same Algonquin root language. And when I first met them, I went up and I said, hey, I'm an Ojibwe, coming from Lake Superior to tell stories about our spirits. And I hope I don't offend any of my relatives here. And the Wabanaki storyteller looked at me and he said, oh, we know who the Ojibwe are. You guys are in our creation stories. We consider the Ojibwe our little brothers, and welcome home. So I just thought, wow, that was amazing how to respect the territories that you're going into. How to present yourself, to come across in a non-culturally, insensitive type way. But yeah, there was a village there, 11,000 years old. So we know people have been living here on the continent of North America for a very long time. There is that popular narrative that we crossed the land bridge some 35,000 years ago. But my elders always tell me, there's more tracks going the other way. Or else, how would they find tobacco in Egyptian mummies? How would they find wild rice in Egypt? They said they even found drumsticks in Egypt as well. So there's a lot of questions out there. Of course, the old people always say, well, we have our own creation stories on where we come from. Colleen brought a little bit about that up with the Ho-Chunk people and where they believe they come from. So we all have our creation stories. And as Ojibwe, I was always taught that we're to respect everybody's creation stories because they were gifts from their spirits to help guide their peoples in times of need. And everybody's creation stories are true. Yes, yes. For the Anishinaabe, we would find a place where the food grows upon the water, and we would consider that place to be Madeline Island in the Apostle Islands. And that still to this day is considered the spiritual homeland of the Anishinaabe. And people from all over Canada and the United States come to Madeline Island to kind of as a pilgrimage to feel the power that is there and the sacredness that is there. Out of the 650 languages spoken in North America, 350 of those languages are indigenous languages. We talk about how important indigenous languages are. And when I asked my grandmother that, well, you know, she's like, well, we have very beautiful words. And encoded within those words are how we're supposed to treat each other. When I came out here and I said, hello to all my relatives. You know, I wasn't just acknowledging my biological relatives. I was acknowledging that living spirit. We have beautiful words like Dawagan, which means drum, the heart-sounding instrument. Our word for warrior, Ogichi-da. When you break that word down, the O stands for he or she, the Gichi stands for great or big, and the Oda stands for heart. He or she is great of heart. He or she puts themselves before us to protect us out of love, unconditional. You know, back in the day, you only had to have a few criteria to be Anishinaabe, to be Native. And that was if you loved your land and you loved your people, you were Anishinaabe. We didn't have blood quantum. We didn't have a system like that. Kind of getting off subject here. Let's get back into the fruit styles a little bit. I like to do that a little bit, the waves, yes. This next flute I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions. This flute came to me from one of my friends, and I never leave home without it. After I played flute in the woods for a couple years, I would make my way to the street corners of Bayfield, the neighboring town, where I would work as a baker at a coffee shop. And while I was working there, they would introduce me to things like the cappuccino, and the espresso, and the Americano. And after drinking these concoctions, I was very much ready for flute playing on the street corners. Yes, that's where I met Don, on the street corners. So there I was, you know, playing on the street corners. And a funny thing happened. People started to slow down and listen. And then after the song was over, they would come up and they would ask me questions like, you know, how do you make a flute? And where does the flute come from? What's the creation story? And they would say things like, you know, we were having a really bad day, and whatever was in that flute music, that medicine, that helped alleviate that stress that we were feeling. So I got to see firsthand the medicine of these ancient instruments. From those street corners, I would go to bus stops and airports, and I really loved the airports because people congregate there from all over the world. You know, and they're always traveling from point A to point B. We never take that time to slow down and smell the roses. So I'll find a spot to play in the airports and I'll start playing. And I notice people start to slow down and they start to take that moment. And I start to notice that my audience, you know, it doesn't matter what language they speak or what culture they come from. The flute was speaking right to their hearts. Yes, so this next song I'm going to play is all about us coming together, much like that that we're doing tonight. You know, we're gathering just like our ancestors did, sharing culture, sharing stories, sharing history, and in doing so, we are paying homage to those who had come before us. We talked about the wigwam a couple times tonight. I want you all to imagine this being our big wigwam tonight, and we're all in this together. My friend Bill Miller, he's always fond of saying, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one race, the human race. Yeah. And we're all in this together. Yes. Yes. The big one. Can I say that? The big one?
So
This next song is called, all right, the drone flute with this. Thank you guys for coming out and sharing this beautiful, beautiful evening with us. I feel really honored to be here presenting just Bungi Italo, just a little bit about what we know. Chimigwich, thank you guys for coming out. I hope that you found this evening's performance educational and entertaining. Yes, yes. All right, guys. Got here earlier and everybody just had everything ready to go. So Chimigwich, all of you guys are all helping contribute to this wonderful, beautiful medicine. So Chimigwich, to all those helpers out there making this happen. I think there are some questions and answers, I think, but I'm not sure. That's what they had said like 2 minutes before I came home. Okay.
You have some questions? Yes. There are CDs. Yes.
We don't like to talk about ourselves, but I'm going to talk about Michael just for a second. I meant to tell everyone that a couple days ago, Michael won a Native American Music Award. So
So yes. Anything else?
I was wondering if Michael can talk about
The regalia that I'm wearing is considered a woodland style regalia. And it's one of the very first dances and outfits that were outlawed because the dance was loosely based upon our war dance. A long time ago, when our warriors were victorious in battles, they would journey back to those villages that they all came from. They would post a stick in the center of the village, and they would dance around this pole, and they would showcase those moves that won them victory in battle. So I have a vest on, I have a bandolier bag, which was pretty popular a couple hundred years ago. So we're trying to make that coming back. It's coming back better than bell bottoms, believe it or not. But yes, a very old dance that has made a tremendous comeback throughout our communities. When I was a young boy growing up, there was only a few woodland dancers. Now they're all over the place. So reclaiming that spirit is such a good thing, because we know that identity is important to all of us. Yes.
Somebody else. Yes.
So you were busking, like when you were working at the coffee shop. I mean, you were asking. That's great. I mean, you deserve a tip jar right now. That was fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate the
it.
kind
Was
words.
comprehensive and awesome.
I thank you.
Entertainment, knowledge. Great.
Were any of the indigenous have a written language, or was it all oral?
Did any of the indigenous have a written language, or was it all mutter, mutter, mutter? Oral.
Yeah, you know, when the Europeans first arrived here, you know, they want us to think that there was nothing here and they had built everything. When in fact they first arrived, there was already 90 to 113 million people all living here, each with their own unique languages, forms of government, gardening systems, as well as some writing systems. For the Ojibwe, we used a lot of symbols that talked about ceremonial stuff and songs. So the Ojibwe, the Anishinaabe, we did not have an alphabetized system, but we did have a system of symbols. And for us, we have prophecies that are written on birch bark scrolls. And when we were, our culture was being attacked, the story goes that somewhere on the Apostle Islands buried are these birch bark scrolls with prophecies on them. So yeah, there are some indigenous folks with writing. You know, a lot of times people will say, well, you natives didn't own land anyway. Well, we thought about land in a very different way. And we did have ancient gardens, places we would always return back to. You know, when we think about those indigenous gifts, you know, look no further than corn, beans, and squash. I often ask my younger audience, you guys like popcorn?
Yes.
Well, you're welcome. It's the indigenous gifts. You know, and these indigenous gifts have revolutionized agriculture throughout the world, allowing populations to flourish. Another gift that the natives gave was democracy, believe it or not. As our forefathers would study the Iroquois Confederacy, and they would wonder, can we have something different from France, different in Britain? And some would say that would give birth to democracy. So, yeah, and women, of course. Well, you know, when they first arrived here, they looked at the native man who listened to his woman, and they thought, he's no better than a dog. He listens to the woman. But a long time ago, pre-contact, America would have been a feminist paradise because women would have held all the power in our communities. They would have ruled the wigwam. And if we would have messed up, out the wigwam we go. Yes. Yes.
Did he grow up speaking both languages?
In Head Start in kindergarten, I started to learn our animals, and I started to learn the language. I had a teacher who I call my grandmother. She wasn't a biological grandmother, but she had me from Head Start all the way till I graduated high school. I took multiple language courses with her, studied Native American history, studied the fur trade. Yeah, it's pretty extensive out there, and of course we're always learning. We're always learning more. You know, we never stop in learning as we get older. So, how Chinibuchi?
Can I ask what Sam was doing with the matches and the fan? when you came back out? A little bit about that?
What I just did was I just fanned you guys down and let you guys go home with good thoughts, good feelings in your heart. You know, put that in your heart. That's what he always told us. And even doing like cultural events, you put that into your heart because you're not going to pick it up in a book or anything because you're going to forget about it. So the Creator always said, put it in your heart or they'll find it. So I smudge you guys down with sacred medicines here that we use. So
I think we're going to do that every week.
I just like to just add one more thing here. You know, sometimes we go all over the place on Earth and we travel and you just can't get away. You know, and you always think about, man, so having fun. You know, and there's always somebody watching. You know, the Creator always sends somebody. And I'm very grateful. I want to acknowledge my leadership, our last tribal chief, tribal chairman. You know, he took he's here. Yeah, so I was talking to him earlier. You know, our ancestors that are here, you know, they sometimes come in our path and show us these things, you know, so we put it back in our heart here. And yeah, he brought his family up here to enjoy the beautiful scenery here. And so yeah, I'd like to, you know, Kevin, you know, play this one song here that really means a lot to me because it takes me back to like the boarding school times too. I told you about, and I don't know if you can bring it up on the screen and play it for you. And she's a really. Just listen.
Remember me Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me.
All right. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. If you have more questions, we're going to be here tomorrow morning, and maybe they can answer some more. Starting there at 9 o'clock, they're going to do some things. Pardon me? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to. Anyway, thank you, Kevin and Tom, for working so hard putting the sound and lights together. So we hope this touched you this evening in so many ways. And take a look at the merchandise tonight. There's some great gifts out there. And I already see a T-shirt I'm going to buy. And thank you, Sam. Thank you, Michael Laughing Fox. And thank you, Colleen. Thank you so much, guys. Don't forget Friday night. Don't forget Friday evening at 7 o'clock. You're from Houston. Thanks.
Would you? Happy Gawain, we'll see you again. We don't say goodbye in our language, but we'll always see you again.